demographic you're at, obviously the ultra wealthy are going to be in their bunkers and hidden out, so it won't affect them. But the day-to-day living, as you have to live through this, like me, that's why I did the Adapt 2030 channel, because we all got to live through this together. And Jim, you're at the forefront too. We all got to go through this together. So we might as well do it together as a tight-knit unit to give us the best quality of life,
That's right.
The best chances for survival, and the best chances for us to rebuild the new world as we march through this place.
We, of course, are with the one and only David DuByne, the founder of Adapt 2030 YouTube channel, and also a Brighteon TV host as well. He's on, I'm on tonight, and he is on, I don't know what days, I think Thursdays or Fridays, I'm not sure. But Dave is also, he's really become a leading prognosticator. He's been on with Mike Adams lots of times. I think Mike says you're one of his favorite guests to have on, Dave. And, you have a great grasp of the full picture. Some people come on and they specialize in one area, but you have a really good grasp on, I think, what goes on over in Europe, which I don't think people really realize, Dave, how much that really affects us over here. What goes on over there will eventually make its way over here. And I think people say, that's over there, no big deal. And really, it is kind of a big deal. Tell us about that connection. Tell us why do people overlook that, and why is it dangerous to do so?
Because our news isn't feeding them that. That's why it's being overlooked. If the news was front and center every day, then it would be looked at. Like, I'm surprised our news is not front and center every day saying, you know what, we're going into massive food shortages. We all need to start our own gardens again in our own homes and have 5 or 10 minutes of the first, news broadcast of every single evening, giving you tips and tricks on how to, or showing you maps of community gardens, or how to build your soils, or what seeds, or what month this could be to plant your veggies, and then what month this could be to wild forage. That should be the front news that should be on right now with the cataclysm we are running headlong into. But they choose to choose, focus or not focus, whatever to distract. It's like the illusion is being built by your mind. So the thought is creating the caged reality around each individual nation. It's not just, so there's a different caged reality for Europe right now. Oh, the rightists are swinging in, Mussolini's swinging in over in Italy. Now, the only reason maybe that was, when you look back in hindsight and you hit something really important on the head there. A lot of people are super specialized niche, and I didn't go that direction where I was more of a generalist. But being not really looking for a trend in a very specific niche allowed me to just kind of look out and go, wait, that kind of connects over here. We're talking about food shortages. And what do we need to grow food? Oh, we need fertilizer. Oh, there's a natural gas shortage in Europe. Okay, so those all start to connect together. But if I was a gas trader, I'd only be focused on gas, and that'd be it. And if I was only like an ag space, wholesaler or something, importer, exporter on the fertilizer sides, and then you break that down into specialty niches from the urea and the ammonia thing, like you can get really specialized and super laser niche, which our whole world today is laser niched. So if you were in any of those specialized trades, you wouldn't really see the connection of the food, the fertilizer, the energy, and then how this all connects with a centralized goal of the sun stepping down in its 400-year cycle, and the world needs an excuse why we're coming to the lowest food production in hundreds of years. There needs to be excuses abounding across every single continent, nation, to explain away the food shortages. Good health is our greatest wealth, and I'm really enjoying the benefits of C60 EVO organic olive oil. When I take it daily, my focus is sharper and I have a lot more energy and endurance. I sleep deeper, wake up feeling more refreshed. C60 EVO's ESS60 is a breakthrough technology making C60 safe for human and pet consumption. It's been called a miracle molecule due to the physical and mental benefits people are enjoying. C60 EVO manufactures ESS60 infused edible oils, skin serums, lip balms, and pet formulas. The results are truly noticeable. Treat yourself and those that you care about with these life-enhancing products. For 100% ESS60 purchased directly from the lab at c60evo.com/adapt2030 and use the promo code ADAPT2030 to take an additional 10% off your order. That link's in the description box below. Click and go. And now on with the video. Because this is a natural cycle that we're experiencing. And if you take a look at the wider natural cycle, 400-year cycle, our sun's magnetic fields go really low. our jet streams and cloud cells move and wander, so the planting and the harvesting dates are not stable any longer. Now that's a known. But today's world, everything is linear and it's so precise, and we got satellites. Well, how do you explain away the food shortages? And at the same time, keep the global warming narrative moving forward so you can get a global tax. See, once you start to put in that context, then you see the periphery things start to plug in very cleanly, like blocks that you would build a Lego set with. And here we are. We're really at the cusp of it. It's past the point right now where the collapse phase is here to usher in the central bank digital currencies, and also your digital rationing card, which, James, I know we talked about this, and I talked about it with Mike and everybody until I was blue in the face back in March, saying the fertilizer shortages are going to be so massive this year, it's going to create the largest food shortages that we've seen in quite a long time. And by December of this year, we'll have digital rationing cards for food. And here it comes in. They are definitely pushing for this as we speak. And you're going to see digital rationing cards for your food by the end of the year. And I know I get long-winded, man. Stop me sometimes.
Well, how would that go, David? Do you mean you wouldn't be able to buy from the grocery store without your digital ID card? And what would they? I mean, do you have any concept about how that's specifically going to? They're going to tie it to your phone? Are they going to smartphone it? What's your thoughts on that, or what evidence have you found?
Okay, so it's not going to sweep the globe in a single day and then everybody will wake up and you go, hey, your thing, you got to have this. Notice in the test countries that it's being done right now, in the EU especially, since it's going so hardcore there with your energy, they're trying to ration electricity. They're going to be putting you in jail if you allow your thermostat to go to a higher level. Everybody's going to be rationed. The city and the state and the governments are going to be, the city-state, I should say, is going to be responsible for regulating the amount of electricity on demand that's allowed for persons to use. They got the community heating centers opened up. You will not be allowed in the community heating center if you do not have your ID with you. So this is where it starts. And this is going to move all digital. So with it, it's in Europe is going to be the hotbed of it before it sweeps the rest of the planet. I would say Europe and Australia and New Zealand are going to be the first three that you're going to see this implemented, because you can see the trajectory they've already gone. So with the COVID passports and that thing, suddenly, you know, how's the gas let off that? You can't have too many psychological trigger points going at the same time, because it'll just confuse everybody. Well, they're just going to shut down. So as you see the narratives move, bend, and morph, you'll notice that the gas gets put on one thing to create a different like section of fear in the brain that wasn't hit. So if they're going to hit you with fear on a global plague or whatever you want to call it, that they tried to frame it as, like, that triggers a different part of your brain than food shortages and that sort of thing.
So Daisy, what you're talking about basically, David, is a basic control operation, really, that they're sort of running on us right now to keep us off balance, to keep us in fear, to keep us confused. I don't think we really know who our allies are, who the enemies are. I think there's I think they intermingled on purpose. We're not going to do it anymore. You saw Italy just now apparently has elected a nationalist. I don't really know a lot about the woman very much, but it's certainly not, she doesn't seem to be, establishment. How long before people are just going to start saying, we're not going to do it anymore? You can say what you want. You can make whatever proclamation you want, whatever mandates. We're not going to follow it. Or do you think they're going to blindly follow it? Where are we at?
Well, again, I'll continue on with the beginning of what you asked the question, like, how are they going to implement these digital passports? Okay, it may or may not be a government, but you saw what they did with COVID restrictions during the COVID lockdowns. They let the corporations do it in lieu of the government.
That's right.
It wasn't a government mandate. No, it's a corporate policy. So again, you look at who controls the supply chains, and it's not just the average person on the street that's in control of the food in a cold chain heading from storage facility A, B, C, D into the city, into your regular supermarket, whatever that might be. The average person is not in control of that. So to implement something in terms of a digital rationing card, at first it would be with the energy, and they're already starting that in Europe. They're already starting it. It's in a soft form of how much energy you can use allotted to you on a per day basis. Now, how are they going to swoop that over into, you need your IDs to get into the heating centers? Okay, they have wood ration allowances now. In Poland, Latvia, I think it was Lithuania was another one.
Yep.
Yeah, and the greater EU is going to have wood allotments. Now, how are you going to get that wood? See, they're going to start with this scheme of the things that you need with the food also. because this food shortage is running around Europe now. It's intensifying. And I just saw corn was down 25% in France of the production levels, bringing it back to the production levels they experienced in 1990. So this would be the same with Germany coming in as well, because that drought did not just affect France. It was a continent-wide event. So, go for the basics. So you want your firewood? Okay, you got to sign up for this program. And what they're trying to get people to do is sign up for these programs to get their rations of wood. It's moving over to food next. It's already at the energy.
And we've just come to be in a culture, Dave, where we just depend upon the government and we cry out for them to rescue us. And we've almost lost that sense of self-sustainability. And I don't want to use sustainability in the Agenda 2030 sense, but you know what I mean? We've kind of lost that nature that we have to, I'd say survive, but at least thrive without having Big Brother helping us out or Big Daddy.
Now, how many people do you think, as a percentage-wise, in the entire United States are 100% beholden to the government assistance programs for survival? Like literally, if that stopped, they would starve to death because they
a lot of elderly
don't have that assistance for any way, shape, or form. 10%?
A lot of elderly, I think, probably 35, 40% maybe.
Wow, that high? Then every one of those is going to be an informer. And I hate the blanket statement, but really, when it comes down to it, if there are massive food shortages in America, if you're going to need digital ration cards, now luckily for us, it's going to be one of the last places it comes, but it's already starting in other places. So just like you mentioned in Europe, it's going to start there. The contagion for the economy is going to sweep this planet. Now we got China in complete free fall and economic, free fall speed, and then Europe also at the same time. So if there are food shortages that come here and you are guaranteed more food, a better something, there's always something. That was what I noticed in China. Like if you turn somebody in, they didn't give you money. They gave you a better status or quality of life or a higher reputation within the community that you couldn't buy that with money. There was something along that level given to it versus just a cash reward. Although that did happen, but it was what I came to understand. It was higher social status, and with that higher social status came a different quality of life, a different peer group, a different opportunities, specifically for the children, which they're really focused on more than themselves a lot. But you can see the same thing if it was a higher quality status of life. Oh, you're in charge of these people now. Oh, just tell us. And you can see something like this moving into a very dark area so quickly. And if that many people are dependent on the government, then you're going to have, I won't say a blanket statement, but I'll say a very high percentage, 80%, and that's being generous of niceness, 80% of those 35% will be the informers during this time. But really, when it comes down to it and your children are starving, what are you going to do? That would turn some middle-class neighborhoods into tattletale zones as well, because these people, they have their 9-to-5s, they don't know how to farm, they don't know how to do anything, and their children are starving. They're going to do anything so their kids don't starve in themselves. Doesn't matter what stratus or demographic you're at. Obviously, the ultra wealthy are going to be in their bunkers and hidden out, so it won't affect them. But the day-to-day living, as you have to live through this, like me, that's why I did the Adapt 2030 channel, because we all got to live through this together. And Jim, you're at the forefront too. We all got to go through this together. So we might as well do it together as a tight-knit unit to give us the best quality of life,
That's right.
The best chances for survival, and the best chances for us to rebuild the new world as we march through this place.
Yeah, if we don't,
we're going to all experience it together. So I'd rather be on the side of having a better life and a higher quality of life because we're more organized in the basics in case the centralized delivery systems break down, that we're ready for that.
What is number one on your mind right now, Dave? What keeps you up at night? I guess to sort of use the term, is it the food shortages? Is it the potential for the war that's going on over here? We're getting some saber rattling for nuclear conflict, and that just the game changer for everything. That changes everything. If there's a nuclear conflict, of course, that just ramps things up by magnitude of 100.
I would like to start with living in Asia. If you're driven enough and you have your dream clearly in front of you, you'll get up at any time to do anything. So I would always tell them, I'll get up at 3 a.m. to do an interview. I'll get up at 2, 4, whatever. I'll get up any time to do any interview at all because I believed in what I was doing. So you have to follow that with action. If you're, it's too early for me, it's too late for me, then you're not really in the game. You're really not.
That's right.
And that's the same with getting ready for these changes right now. You either are in it and you're willing to do anything at any time to get ready for it. So like for me last night, seeing the Bank of England drop, 500 basis points, which is so that's really like a Six Sigma event plus in terms of FX currency trading. That just never happens. So when you see something like that, I was like, oh, this is the beginning of the trigger of the end of the financial system as we know it. Like that was the starting gun, I really believe. So then I was sitting there thinking, I have some notes from last night when I was, because I keep a little notepad by my bed here. Biochar. I was thinking about my ozone generator, farm attachments for the Ranger that we have. We have an ATV, so little farm attachments that clip back there like a disc harrow and a tine rake and stuff like this. So the things that were keeping me up are, am I prepared enough? So from this point forward, the interventions that are going to be required are just going to dump so much money, and it's just they're going to suspend market trading and the bank bail-ins. And then once you see that, you get a good, the reason this all happened, they need to bring you to central bank digital currencies. They got to collapse the traditional markets. Like what you understand, finance itself needs to come to ground zero before they can build it back up, because two systems running in conjunction is a no-no. So it's pretty easy to see. I mean, you know where they're going with it. So we're here, we're going to go to there. So for me, getting prepared is kind of the thing that keeps me up at night.
Sorry to cut you off there, dude. I was wondering because it's popped in my mind. It mentioned right along with what you're talking about. Do you think there's going to be price controls? Do you think they're going to try to, typically when there's a collapse or free fall, the government will move in and say, okay, you can't charge more than 39 cents an ear for corn. And I'm using that as an example, but they put price controls on things, and that always is damaging for the actual business owner, because that's I think that's the death knell of an economy when they start doing that. Do you see them maybe moving in that direction also?
But yes, they're already doing that in Europe. They're trying to cap energy prices, and they're also capping what industry can charge for the energy. And what they've already talked about nationalizing all means of production in Europe and putting a cap price on it. So if you're going to go for price discovery and earnings and that sort of thing in the traditional stock market, then that doesn't work anymore. Because if you're going to cap off all European production and put limits on it, and by the way, a factoid, I encourage anybody to check this, 50% of all heavy industry, and when I say heavy, I'm talking about steel smelting, zinc, aluminum production, refabrication, copper, these sort of things have come to a complete and grinding halt. They don't even know when they're going to reopen these facilities again. The electrical prices are too high. And with the EU demanding that even me and people like me and you cut our electrical by 15% now and can't raise your house any warmer than 65 or 66 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm going to say unequivocally that is going to come down to bare line 60, where you'll start to see your breath almost in your house, but they can't let you see your breath in your house. So they're going to go 1 or 2 degrees variance on that. They're going into a dark winter in Europe. So there's no way for what you consider stock market valuations to operate any longer on this planet by just what's happening in Europe. And if you look at the fertilizer production facilities, the ones that are mainly, I'll just stick with ammonia, urea. And if you look around there, there's about 40 plus of those that have gone down, and they will not come back online to produce enough fertilizer for next planting season. So this year, just to put it in just a general frame of reference, the entire planet experienced a 20% reduction in fertilizer availability, meaning shortages. So if you look at global agriculture right now, we're down about 20% across the entire planet. Next year, it's going to be 40%. So if you start to work the math on that and go, gee, these shortages that are now being manifest and tallied into the silos and this sort of thing, and they're actually getting numbers, especially France, 1990s, 25% reduction. Once we start to see this, and we'll see how much food prices will rise based on a 20% reduction, then you can extrapolate it out sort of, but not really. If you subtract 40% global fertilizer, then how much will that make the food prices rise? Now, if you were doing a 1-to-1, you would start from zero and say, okay, minus 40%, there's a 5x increase in food. But we're going from 0 to 20% and a 3x increase in food, and then we're going to move from that point and go minus 20 more percent, but it's not going to be, 2x more increase in food. It's going to be an exponential from that point.
You're talking
anybody
food
with
lines.
Statistics will probably answer that better than I.
Food lines, David. You're talking about a situation where we're going to be going back to remember the old black and white photos of World War II, and all these guys had all their hats on and their suits, and they're all standing in food lines waiting to get bread and soup or whatever they were serving out then. That's not unbelievable to think that may happen here.
Look at the 1930s when they did that. How did they utilize that labor pool? Well, they put them out on the TVA projects and built roads, repaired a lot of things,
That's right.
created national park systems, bridges, dams, levees, dikes, this sort of thing. There was a lot of projects, like literally waterworks projects, infrastructure project. Okay, so you got 8 times more people right now on the planet. So the population compared to availability of manpower pool will be 8 times greater. Let's say 7 if you want to be conservative. Then how would they utilize that? Now, do you think they're really going to let them go build more roads and dams and bridges, or do you think they're going to turn them into a working army within the country and then send them out? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm asking as a question. Is it you think it'd be more toward an A, like infrastructure, supply chain types of upgrades, or do you think it'll be B, where they use it as a political force and create an army within the country of its
Well,
own citizens? I don't know, really. I'm just asking.
yeah, that's a good question. We do have crumbling bridges and stuff in major cities across the country.
Think about that there for a second. You clued in the idea. So just generally, I'm just saying in a general sense, what we're going to experience in October of 2024 is going to be a slight second magnetic field in the outer solar system of the 4 gas giants that have created a square. Now, if you look at the most recent research just in the last few days, the temperature of Jupiter has risen significantly, and it's the brightest that it'll be in the sky as we see it right now. Planetary heat wave, 700 degrees Celsius increase extending 130,000 kilometers, 10 Earth diameters above Jupiter through the atmosphere now. So as we look at that as a data point of heating and change, see, that's why I am very cleanly saying that this grand solar minimum, the connection of the 4 gas giants they're going to create their own small second magnetic field. But then we also have the sun, which is stepping down in its magnetic field. So nothing goes to zero. It's going to change. So now I see Jupiter heating and becoming more active. And all that means is more activity electromagnetically with that heat change. It's not about combustion or global warming inside Jupiter. It's about the magnetic field flows and that, the craziest thing for me is understanding electrical current down the line. They create a magnetic field so the electricity can run on top of the magnetic field. They're not really delivering the electric down that copper wire as you understand it. They're creating the magnetic field so that electric flow, those electrons can flow down through that magnetic field. Now the same thing, just expand it out onto a planetary size, solar system size thing there. And if you're looking at needing a magnetic field to then transmit electricity in the electromagnetic scape of things, the sun's stepping down. So that means that electromagnetic field intensity is shifting in other directions. So those field lines, and that is going to roll into different areas. Now, if Jupiter was an unignited brown dwarf star, well, then it's going to start becoming more bright in the sky as that transmission line, if you will, changes slightly. And there's more electrical flow to the planet. Now, that stronger magnetic field would also be doing the same thing with Saturn and Uranus and Neptune. So once you get those 4 interconnecting, they're going to have their own toroid looping field out there. But we have the sun, which is its own looping toroid magnetic field, which is far larger. But as we swing around in October of 2024, we're going to be captured between these 2 toroid magnetic fields. Now, the reason I tell you this is during this time of resets, it is well known that the Earth's crust will move, bend, morph, crack, liquefy in the top 1 to 2 miles of the crust in so many diverse places that it's an anomaly of how many places it will happen. So you're looking at fiber optic cables, water pipes, gas pipelines, bridges, railroads, railways, locks, dams, everything separating, cracking, pulling. And everything's over its date of usability right now. So I am thinking, why would you repair it if you knew it was going to break? Would you let it break and then re-repair it with the labor force left or the people left? So I'm going in the circles, here of 2024 is that date of the highest intensity of looping magnetic field, and there's something called a block wall, or some would say bloche, where those 2 lower looping fields come in and they create this 0 point in the center of it, where there's literally no magnetic field encapsulated between the 2 magnetic fields. Where it's almost like Bose headsets. The 2 magnetic fields will cancel each other out. Well, there'll be this literally time-space where there's no magnetic field interlooped within 2 fields. We may very well pass through that in 2024. But something electromagnetically is going to start morphing our crust, more volcanic eruptions, definitely larger earthquakes, but the top mile is the thing that's not really being talked about. But if you go back through history, you'll start to find a lot of half-buried buildings, buried up to the first, 1 or 2 floors. And then over the last couple hundred years, we've started to dig this out. There's a lot of research in Tartaria and the cyclicity of mud flood, and the same thing. The reason I talk about this a lot is if you were to have that event, then the water underneath the subsurface of the crust here would ooze out something like a toothpaste fashion, covering anywhere from multiple feet to 20 feet deep, and then it would ooze out and it would cover whatever's there, literally rise beneath your feet upward. And during that New Madrid fault, earthquake, up and down the Mississippi River, they had sand volcanoes that covered millions of acres of sand, but it took them 40 to 50 years to get that level again. They actually had sand volcanoes that shot, and the earth uplifting as well. So if you take this on a wider level, where instead of it being a regionalized area there, and if it did it for the entire planet, then we would come into one of these reset periods, and there would still be some infrastructure left over. It would almost be, it would be damaged. So we'd pull back to sort of a, more rudimentary lifestyle until we figured out how to unbury it and get the tech back up and running again. It would be a fast track, but it sure wouldn't be from starting from scratch coming out of caves. So I'm with you. I don't really know how much of the history has been distorted, but I'd say quite a bit based on archaeological finds. And, what's up with these buried buildings around the entire planet?
Yeah, I've seen some
Seems
of these.
to be a planet-wide event. And that's the only thing that can explain it for me is where we're coming to in 2024. And the elite, they don't care. They're not going to carry out this grand plan. It's a distraction to get you distracted through what's about to happen with the crust of our planet.
I think it's one of the things we're going to find out if truth ever comes out, how much vibration, like you talked about, how important that is in our everyday lives, and I don't think people realize it. David DuByne, Adapt 2030 YouTube channel. Sorry, we're just out of time.